I'm Brittany. This is Chuaning, and welcome back for more Erha. We start volume 8 today. We're all feeling very normal about it. It's fine. It's fine. We read for a couple hours. We usually take a break somewhere around the middle for a little bit to go back into the break room, which is exactly where you came out of. I mean, these days it's more of a break train, something like that. But that's where we go to chill out, right in the middle of things. We usually cover about 40 to 50 pages. I believe today we're covering more on the end of 40, 42. Much thanks to Love Bunnies for helping me figure out where we start and where we stop so that I don't have to look ahead and potentially catch spoilers. I have lemonade from my good friend Mike for today because it's Erha and it was left over, so why not? There are trigger warnings down in the description box. There's also a link to the public Gaywatch Discord, which is where all the bookish chats happen if you are wanting to theorize or chat, or in a rereader's case, there's also a spoilery chat for Erha if you would like to hop on in. They have very, very interesting conversations over on the public Gaywatch Discord. And that invite should be evergreen. So if it doesn't work for you, holler at me, because that should not be the case. It should be fine. So, it's been closer to like 3 weeks since our last stream, wherein we finished volume 7, where we discovered a number of distressing things. Taeshan Jun can be pulled into this universe. For starters, Chuaning's a tree, born of guilt and a very misled redemption arc. Chuaning was the one who helped Mo run when Mo Run was a child, starving on the side of the road with a dead mom. That was Chuaning. That was Chuaning. And now, at the very end of the volume, there was something connecting Chuaning and Mo Run that makes me think all the way back to Jincheng Lake and being able to like open the box, or being able to use the, two people of the same stuffs or what have you. I'm concerned and a little bit excited, but very distressed. I also may or may not have admitted to my hatred of a certain danmei author. I feel that was earned at that point in time at the end of volume 7. She was being particularly cruel and dastardly and diabolic and mischievous and thorough, well thought out. She really had this all planned down to a T. And we all know my great dislike for authors with an extreme amount of purpose and intention. So, we're on chapter 244, which is page 11, as per usual. This chapter is called Snake Shed, but not like a shed in which there are snakes. There's a hyphen. It's like snake shed, as in a snake shedding its skin. A snake shed, That's where we begin. Am I sounding all right? I had some tech issues at the end of last week, and I just need to make sure that I sound as good as this mic is letting me sound. Because if it's not, then it's a recording problem, not a mic problem. But do we sound good? Okay. Fantastic. Nothing stopping me from starting volume 8. Volume 8 of 11. We're going to read volumes 8 and 9 back to back through October and November. And then when we start volume 10 in the new year, it will be ahead of when volume 11 drops. So we'll be able to go straight from one to the next. So we have 8 and 9 now, and then in February or March, somewhere in there, is when we start volume 10 and get to the end of this. All right. The cultivators who had escaped Mount Jiao with their lives fled to Guyue to recuperate. With the medicine sect's disciples' help, they extracted Huabinan's heart tunneler insects and bandaged their many wounds. The fog of dejection, however, proved harder to treat than any injury. The air itself seemed heavy and lifeless. Shui Meng sat on the shore of Rainbow Isle with the scimitar Long Chung in his lap, staring blankly at the rise and fall of the tide. Footsteps sounded behind him, and he whipped around, eyes wide and filled with earnest hope. Yet when he saw who it was, the light in his eyes died in an instant. He dragged his gaze back to the boundless sea. Mei Shui took a seat next to Shui Meng. Your dad received a message and had to return to Xisheng Peak. He left in a hurry, so he asked me to inform you. This statement was met with silence. You and your dad seem to be in a lousy mood, Mei Shui remarked. Since you finally noticed, feel free to get lost. Mei Shui did nothing of the sort. He tossed a wineskin to Shui Meng. Do you drink? Shui Meng turned on him, furious, like a hedgehog with its quills raised. Do I drink? Like hell, I haven't fallen that far. Hedgehog with its quills raised. So threatening. So cute. Mei Shui smiled. His fine golden locks curled softly in the sea breeze, and his eyes were like pale jade, twin pools of teal flecked with fallen petals. That description alone makes me think they're gonna bang. What do you mean, fallen that far? It's just a drink. Mei Shui smoothed a wisp of fair hair behind his ear. The silver bell around his wrist tinkled softly. I heard Xisheng Peak forbids its people from visiting the pleasure districts, but surely the taverns aren't off limits as well. At Shui Meng's lack of response, Mei Shui continued. I also heard Chu Shenjun adores pear blossom white wine. You're his disciple. Have you not learned to hold your drink? Shui Meng glowered. His lips parted as if to curse Mei Shui out, but he simply twisted open the wineskin and took a generous gulp. Gutsy. This liquor's from Tashui Palace. It's quite strong. The gutsy young Master Shui sputtered mightily, face ashen, and broke into a violent fit of coughing. Mei Shui pressed his lips together, seemingly taken aback. You really can't hold your drink? Now this, Shui Meng's pride could not take. He swatted Mei Shui's hand away as he reached for the wineskin and gulped down another burning mouthful. Not a second later, he turned his head aside and spat it out with a cry. Mei Shui watched him in a rare state of bewilderment. True, I didn't peg Shui Meng for a spitter either. I didn't know you... Never mind, you've had enough. Get away from me. Give me my wineskin back. Go away. Shui Meng would nip at anyone who provoked him whenever he got into a temper. Glaring daggers at Mei Shui, he snapped, How would it make me look if I started and stopped whenever you told me to? What dignity would I have left? He patted his own slightly flushed cheek, already slightly tipsy. There was a saying on Xisheng Peak. Chu Zongshe could down 1,000 cups, while one was enough to bring down young Master Shui. As Mei Shui wasn't from Xisheng Peak, he'd naturally never heard such a thing. Otherwise, he would have known better than to pour liquor down Shui Meng's throat. After Shui Meng was done spitting out his second swig, he picked up the wineskin again, this time managing 4 or 5 gulps. He gasped as he surfaced for air, his face alarmingly pale. Mei Shui snatched back the wineskin and frowned. All right, that's enough. Go home and rest. You've been sitting in this cold ocean wind for hours. I'm waiting for someone, Shui Meng replied obstinately. Mei Shui blinked. Shui Meng scowled at him for a long moment before surprising them both by bursting into tears. You wouldn't understand. I'm waiting for my ge, for Shizun, for Shimei. Got that? There are 4 of us, and all of us have to be here. It won't be the same if someone's missing. Oh! Honey. No. He really is a hedgehog, isn't he? Oh, she really did something with that. When it came to comforting women, Mei Hunshui was an expert. He'd put his arm around them and utter a few sweet nothings, make some pretty promises. It always worked like a charm. He'd never needed to comfort a man before. I assure you, if you used the same method, I wouldn't be mad. And I don't think Shui Meng would be either. Perhaps it was fortunate, then, that Shui Meng wasn't really in need of comforting. Rather, he had bottled up his emotions for too long, and once the liquor got to his head, they surged up and broke the levees. He wanted nothing more than to let them out. There were 4 of us, but I'm the only one left. My heart hurts. Fuck. Do you understand? Mei Hunshui sighed. I do. Liar, you don't understand shit. Shui Meng bowed his head and wailed. He hugged Long Chung tightly to his chest, a piece of driftwood, to keep himself afloat. The liar didn't know how to convince him otherwise, so he agreed. Okay, you're right, I don't understand. You heartless brute, why can't you understand? Shui Meng was too drunk to be reasoned with. He leveled a baleful glare at Mei Hunshui through the tears pooling in his eyes. What don't you understand? It's simple. He held up his fingers. 4 of us. He put down one finger, then another. Before he got to the 3rd, he dissolved into tears again, as if that trembling finger was a lever that opened the floodgates. There's only one left. I'm the only one left. Get it now? Mei Hunshui didn't want to be a liar, and he didn't want to be heartless either. Since he couldn't say he understood, but he also couldn't say he didn't, he decided it was best to remain silent. Shui Meng stared at him, then turned around and vomited loudly. The famed paramour Mei Gongzhou was used to people staring at him, starry-eyed and besotted. Shui Meng was the first to stare and then throw up. When you were little... Mei Hunshui's temples began to throb. What's your problem? When you were little, I gave you fish mint and you threw up. Now that you're grown, I give you Kunlun wine and you throw up. You're fussier than a girl. He watched Shui Meng's hunched-over figure as he heaved until he was dizzy and breathless, jade-green eyes exasperated. Okay, enough cursing and puking. Go back and rest, said Mei Hunshui. None of them, your Ge, your Shizun, or your friend, would want to see you like this. He stood to pull Shui Meng to his feet. After his spate of vomiting, Shui Meng felt weak, like his feet weren't planted firmly on the ground. He didn't even try to throw off the steadying hand Mei Hunshui placed on his arm. Mei Hunshui escorted Shui Meng away from the shore and through the back entrance of Guyueya. He had intended to take him back to his room to rest, but before they made it through the gate to the garden pavilion, Mei Hunshui sensed danger. He quickly steered Shui Meng behind a column in the open-air corridor. Shui Meng let out a whimper of protest that was swiftly cut off by Mei Hunshui's hand over his mouth. Quiet. Didn't think we were going to bond this early in a volume, but here we are. That's a little personal favorite of mine. Let go of me. I'm gonna throw up again. Shui Meng mumbled around his fingers. Swallow it. She knows what she's doing. This, at least, rendered Shui Meng temporarily speechless. Which could mean nothing. Still worried his intoxicated charge might stir up trouble, Mei Hanshui tapped a finger to Shui Meng's lips and cast a muffling spell. He turned and cast a swift glance into the pavilion, only to be struck dumb by the sight before him. Mo Run! By this point, most of the sect leaders and elders had returned to their own sects. After the chaos that had unfolded on Mount Jiao, all urgently needed to reinforce the barriers protecting their respective domain. But a number of injured cultivators still remained at Guyue. These were currently gathered in the pavilion, staring at the man who'd appeared in their midst with looks of alarm. Clad in a long, hooded cloak of black and gold, Mo Run surveyed his surroundings with narrowed eyes. Look at all these familiar faces. After so many years, I never thought I'd see you all standing here, alive and well. Now I'm gonna puke. One of the cultivators screwed up their courage and bellowed, Moe you, what the hell's gotten into you? Have you been cursed? What's gotten into me? Mo Run's thin lips curled in a sneer. This venerable one should be asking what the hell's gotten into you to speak to me like that. This isn't good. This is the opposite of good. This is bad. I'm almost certain that's bad. The crowd only saw the flash of a dark blur before blood spurted from the chest of the cultivator who'd yelled, splattering over the ceiling. Murderer! Mo Run, what are you doing? Quick, get Zhang Zhengmen, someone screamed. Someone get Zhang Zhengmen now! Oh, Mo Run languidly raised his gaze. Zhang Zhengmen. Zhang Shi. When no one dared answer, Mo Run continued. He's got some skill, I'll give him that. Among all the people this venerable one has killed, he was in the top 10 for sure. The hell are you talking about? Something was not right. 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 Subheader of the entire series. Erha, something was not right. This man was nothing like the Mo Zongshe Mei Hanshui knew. Rancor and malevolence radiated from every fiber of him, yet he looked and sounded exactly like Mo Run. How could anyone have learned to mimic his appearance and voice so precisely in such a short amount of time? One of Guyue's elders spoke up. Mo Zongshe, I'm afraid you've been cursed by the demon dragon on Mount Jiao. Please have a seat so I can check your pulse. What? Mo Run cut him off, eyes narrow. Stop beating around the bush, you nitwit. Are you saying there's something wrong with this venerable one? The elder blinked in trepidation. Since you're so eager to treat someone, this venerable one will help you out. After all, without the sick and injured, you healers would starve, isn't that right? The cloaked figure leapt into the air like a shadow, and the pavilion was suddenly awash in scarlet. Mo Run landed on the burgundy palya-patterned carpet in the middle of the pavilion in a whirl of black robes as screams filled the air. The gathered cultivators were afflicted with a variety of gruesome injuries. Arms were hacked off, legs shattered. The most unfortunate died on the spot, their torsos ripped open in an instant. Mo Run gazed down at the elder who had spoken, now a crumpled heap on the ground. Look, all these patients are for you. Aren't you happy? Moe you. Congratulations, and many happy returns. A brilliant smile unfolded over Mo Run's face as he stepped over the cultivators, both the ones writhing miserably and the glassy-eyed dead. Oh yes, one more thing. At the pavilion gate, he turned to look over his shoulder. This venerable one almost forgot. The upper cultivation realm's been a stinking cesspool for centuries. Pass on a message to your sect leader for me. It's only a matter of time before this venerable one razes all the sects to the ground." "Mo Run, you coward!" one of the braver survivors rasped out. "You attacked a pavilion full of injured cultivators. Are you scared of fighting the other sect leaders face to face?" "Scared? Of them?" Mo Run gave the man a sharp look. "Even if you all held hands and formed a great big army, as long as I don't wish to die, none of you could touch a strand of hair on this venerable one's head." "Mo Run, have you gone mad? You and Hua Binan are working together. Well, what do you want?" Mo Run grinned, his dimples deep and his eyes distant. "You're asking what this venerable one wants," he drawled. A strange look flitted across his handsome features, and he closed his eyes. Even this venerable one isn't sure what it is exactly. "But suffice it to say, it's not something those left in this world can give me, nor can they hope to bring me any cheer," he said tonelessly. "For many years, this venerable one has been a dead man walking, without wants or desires. But if you insist on asking," he chuckled and looked up, irises glinting scarlet, "well then, I'd like to see you all dead." Everyone's jaws dropped. Mo Run swept his gaze over the crowd's ashen faces and couldn't help softly laughing. It's been ages since this venerable one's seen anything so interesting. How fun. "Mo Run, you've truly gone mad." "That's the second time you've said that." His smile twisted into a leer. There was a loud crack. In the blink of an eye, Mo Run had darted behind the speaker and bashed his head in. Gore splattered everywhere. Amidst the horrified screams, Mo Run lifted his gallant, blood-flecked face, revealing a pair of unnervingly bestial eyes. He leapt out of the crowd that chittered like panicked sparrows. "This venerable one wouldn't want to make a liar out of you now. So here's some madness, just for you, good sir." This good sir had had his skull shattered, and his face was a torrent of blood. But Mo Run barely spared him a glance. He surveyed the crowd coolly, as if he'd just finished a perfectly unremarkable meal. "All right, this venerable one's killed enough idiots today." The corner of his mouth quirked up as he shoved the corpse over and kicked it aside. "It'd be a bore to get rid of everyone in one fell swoop. Besides, if all of you die, this venerable one will be lonely again. You can stick around a few more days." He paused. "Next time this venerable one's feeling fidgety, I'll take it out on your skulls." The man strolled away from the mess of gore and through the main hall. At the gate, he glanced over his shoulder once more. "Before then, make sure to look after your heads." He burst into laughter. With a swish of his cloak, he alighted upon the closest rooftop and vanished over the ridge. That's a scene break. Welcome back, guys. How we doing? How we feeling? What's the vibe? Feeling good. Feeling great. Nice. Interesting. Very interesting developments. Yeah. In the cave on Dragonblood Mountain, Mo Run and Chu Wanning were still sound asleep, recovering from the effects of the spell on the incense burner. 3 days after their strange and gruesome events at Guyue, the censer suddenly emitted a shrill whistle. The piercing noise echoed through the cave as black smoke and crimson blood spilled forth. Mo Run's eyes flew open. His chest no longer ached, and he was otherwise uninjured. The mysterious tendril of smoke that had passed between him and Chu Wanning was nowhere to be seen. Pardon me. Shizun. He shot upright. Much to his surprise, he found that a third person had joined them in the cave. The new arrival stood in front of the stone table with his back to Mo Run, scrutinizing the smoking censer. Even from behind, his slender figure was unspeakably lovely. A pale, elegant hand opened the lid and plucked out a densely petaled, exotic-looking flower, holding it up to examine it in the low light. "Totally destroyed," he said softly. Closing his fist, he crushed the flower into dust, which immediately began to glow with a faint pearlescence. He seemed pleased as he gazed down at the light with his hands tucked behind his back. Ah, it's lucky I melded a piece of my own soul into this flower when I refined it. If not for that fragment, this cave would have been impossible to track down. The light eddied around him, as though it knew he was talking about it. It grew fainter and fainter, until it vanished completely. Who? Morun rasped. The man put down the censer and sighed. You're awake? Who are you? Who do you think I am? The man replied lightly. He sounded terribly familiar, but Morun was still groggy from sleep. He felt he'd been dreaming for ages and couldn't immediately place the voice. Who could this man be? Based on what he'd just said, he seemed to have a connection with the mysterious black flower. Refining magical flora and insects was Guyueya's specialty, so was this Huabinan? The moment the name crossed his mind, Morun thought of Shimei and felt his chest burn with hatred. But before he could attempt an answer, the man turned around. The cave was dim, but the newcomer's face was so exquisite it seemed to light up the space. His hair, usually left loose down his back, was now bound in a high ponytail, with an embroidered ribbon tied neatly across his forehead. Below it, those peach blossom eyes gleamed, as bright and clear as ever. Everything about his appearance and aura was almost unrecognizable. Not a trace of gentleness remained. Here was a beauty beyond compare, but Morun felt as though a thunderclap had gone off in his head. His voice was like an arrow piercing the silence as he sputtered in terror. Shimei? Shimei. It was Shimei. The breathtakingly lovely man before him tucked a stray lock of hair behind his ear. Aran, are you so surprised to see me? He asked mildly. Morun's mind seemed to stall as blood surged through his veins. His head buzzed. Why would Shimei suddenly show up here? Why would he behave so strangely? He was rigid with shock, his throat clogged with a flood of words. At last he tentatively managed, Your eyes. They're unharmed. With a small smile, Shimei walked toward Morun. I came here to see my beloved. Who'd like me if I were blind and ugly? Wait. Nobody fucking move. Wait. Is this OG Shimei posing? I don't know. Is it just that they were all calling him Morun when it was Taishan Ju? Hold, please. 1 second. Where was I? Okay. As Shimei spoke, Morun attempted to slowly gather his wits, but his astonishment was like a storm cloud obscuring his thoughts. You, he muttered. How are you here? What about Hanlon the Sage? He felt a surge of fury. At last he understood how Shui Meng must have felt in the past life. There was nothing more painful than being betrayed and used by someone close to you. What about Hanlon the Sage? Oh, about him, Shimei laughed. There'll be plenty of time for me to explain later. He walked forward step by step until he was standing right beside Morun. After so many trials and tribulations, I'd rather have a heartfelt conversation with my beloved before I talk about Hanlon the Sage, he said with a smile. But like he looks different? Like the hair's, he looks different? Listen, I'm not losing my shit until I know that it should be lost, okay? Just the fact that it's bare minimum OG Shimei, I'm not well. We're not doing great. It's not, But if I felt so, okay, all right. Nobody move. Are we holding hands? Hold my fucking hand. I don't know what's happening. Jesus. Gripped by fury and dread, Mo-Run's face grew ashen. What kind of conversation are the two of us supposed to have? The elegant man let out a silvery laugh. He fixed his eyes, softly shadowed as if wreathed in mist, on Mo-Run's face. The two of us are like oil and water. Indeed, we have nothing to say to each other. Hem trailing over the ground, he stepped over Chu Wan-ning. Before Mo-Run could process what was happening, Shimei had extended a slender, well-proportioned hand to caress Chu Wan-ning's cheek. Mo-Run's mind went blank. He couldn't seem to grasp what this action signified. Gazing down at Chu Wan-ning, Shimei murmured to him as if Mo-Run wasn't there at all. That oaf must have really hurt you. Poor Shizun. Then again, you'll remember your other life soon, won't you? Shimei brushed a delicate finger over Chu Wan-ning's bottom lip and narrowed his eyes. His features were as lovely as ever, but he radiated danger, like poison wine. No harm in remembering, though. Even now, I'm not sure why you went to all the trouble you did. At least we can share strategies after you wake up. He paused and smiled. In the past lifetime, you stopped at nothing to achieve your goals, and heartlessly bullied your disciple. Had anyone else tormented me so, I wouldn't be satisfied killing them 100 times over. But though you opposed me, I adore you all the same. He shot Mo-Run a glance, then leaned down and pressed a kiss to Chu Wan-ning's cheek. Lowering his gaze, he heaved a sigh. Why did I have to fall in love with you, my dear Shizun? I called this! I called it! What volume was it? Was it what? What was it? It was like volume fucking 2? 1? I called this! I said it! I was like, what if this motherfucker is in love with Chu Wan-ning? I said it! Listen! I said it! Even if it is OG Shimei, I've still never been vindicated anymore in my life. I said it. I get points. I get so many points. OG or not. I fucking knew it. I knew it. We're on page 23 for chapter 245, which is called Love Rival. I'm going to be insufferable about this. I'm going to be so obnoxious. Just know. Mo-Run stood unmoving, the shock going through him like a lightning strike. No way. No way. What was Shimei saying? What was Shimei doing? What the hell was going on? He was flabbergasted. It didn't seem real that Shimei had just kissed Chu Wan-ning. The sight was so horrifying, he wondered if he'd hallucinated it. He brought a hand to his forehead, temples throbbing. Shimei's gentle smile from years ago flashed through his mind. He could almost hear him call out softly, "Arun." But the man before him, he was actually... All the hairs rose on Mo-Run's neck. The one Shimei loved was Shizun. But how? Shimei had never shown any signs of having feelings for their Shizun. It would be more believable if Shui Mun confessed he had a crush on Chu Wan-ning. How could Shimei be in love with him? He was polite and respectful and hardly ever said a word more than necessary to Chu Wanning, much less clung to him or sought his attention. As soon as, of course, that's how Mo Run would spot affection, trying to get his attention. As soon as class ended, as soon as he finished his tasks, he promptly and properly took his leave. How? Shimei straightened up. He cast a glance at Mo Run and laughed softly. I seem to have caused someone quite a fright. You're completely crazy. Crazy. Shimei's tone was conversational. My dear Shidi, you're calling me crazy? Was I the one who left Shizun in this sorry state? Mo Run flushed with shame, his eyes swimming with fury and bewilderment. If it had been anyone else, he would have lunged at them without holding back. But the person who stood before him now was Ximing Jing, the man he thought he'd loved for 2 lifetimes. All the words he wanted to say were stuck in his throat. To be fair, it's not like I've never done anything crazy, Shimei continued, unabashed. For instance, pretending I returned your feelings, being nice to you for so many years. When you used Jiangwei to interrogate me all those years ago, I even resisted the pain and lied through my teeth to say, I like you. He paused, eyes shining with ridicule. Be serious. If I'd actually fallen in love with someone like you, with no merits besides a pretty face, I might as well gouge out my own eyes and die. He is gay, because that was fucking savage. That was ruthless. That had no ruth whatsoever. Met with Mo Run's stunned silence, Shimei asked, Why so quiet? Are you upset? His was a beauty that could topple nations. Even his sneer was a sight to behold. He shot Mo Run another sidelong glance before reaching out to stroke Chu Waning's chin. Dizzy with rage, Mo Run moved to summon Jiangwei, but there was only a faint scarlet flash in his palm before his spiritual energy sputtered out. Shimei didn't look up. Don't waste your effort. The past life's Wanning used half his earth soul to uproot this flower for you. His plan succeeded. I'll never be able to control you again. Again? But you'll need at least 10 days of rest before you can access your spiritual energy. Trying to fight me now would be foolish. 10 days. 10 days? What's happened in the past 30 seconds? What do you mean? He's got to be without it for 10 days? Who are you calling Wanning? So you're allowed to take advantage of Shizun like this, but I'm not allowed to simply cherish him? It's hardly fair. You've had him so many times. Shimei laughed softly. It's time for me to have a turn. In truth, I do think it's rather beneath me to fuck your second-hand goods, but I'll bear it for his sake. Mo Run had no holy weapon, yet he was so angry he started forward, fists raised. Oh, you know, there's nothing I despise more than an uncultured thug like you. Shimei released Chu Wanning to block Mo Run's blows. On the dim walls of the cave, the 2 men's long shadows flickered and swayed like dueling dragons spitting flames. Shimei had never been much of a fighter, and he knew he was no match for Mo Run hand to hand. A flourish of his sleeve sent several spiritual snakes slithering out to bind Mo Run in place. In that window of opportunity, Shimei leapt aside, gathered Chuaning in his arms, and dashed toward the mouth of the cave. Shizin! Mo-Run struggled free of those cold, scaly snakes and pelted after the other two. But when he burst from the entrance, Shimei had already leapt into a tree, the moon bright behind him. Don't bother, he said, smiling. You've only just come to. You wouldn't be able to catch me if you killed yourself trying. Ximing Jing, why? Why are you doing this? I'll run, said Shimei, smiling. Don't you know how much your Shiga hates the names Shimei and Ximing Jing? Mo-Run blinked in confusion. If you don't mind, call me by my real name from now on. What? This humble one is surnamed Hua. No courtesy name. Given name, Binan. The whole time. Hua Binan? Seeing Mo-Run's eyes fly wide, Shimei's smile seemed to grow brighter. Oh, yes. As your Shishang, I'll give you an important piece of advice. Don't go to Guyueya. Jiangxi will tear you apart. And don't try to follow me either. Be good now, and go back to Xishang Peak. Mo-Run froze, his face drained of color. What are you going to do to Xishang Peak? You're not as dumb in this lifetime after all, Shimei laughed. Shiga has prepared a little surprise for you. You'll see when you get there. Mo-Run tasted blood at the back of his throat, and his eyes burned. Whether with sorrow or rage, he couldn't have said. Shimei, what are you trying to do? He bellowed. What are you plotting? Didn't you tell me Xishang Peak was your home? Didn't you tell me that you owe your life to Uncle? Didn't you tell me we're the most important people to you in the world? By the end, his voice was shaking, hands balled into fists, nails sinking deep into his palms. Were you lying this whole time? All these years and 2 lifetimes. Mo-Run's voice caught, a bitter cold seeping into his bones. Have you been scheming all along? For 2 whole lifetimes? Shimei said nothing. His wide sleeves fluttered as he stood high in the tree, gazing down at Mo-Run with a faint smile touching his lips. With his peach blossom eyes curved into gentle crescents and his daintily pointed chin, he looked like a fox spirit amidst the mist-filled mountains. You. The word rattled between Mo-Run's teeth. His thoughts were a hopeless tangle, his eyes wild with desperation. Shimei, say something. This man had once consoled Mo-Run beneath the candlelight. They'd later spent so much time together they'd become inseparable. Say something. Ever since Mo-Run had first met him as a delicate youth, elegant as jade, until the moment he lay in Mo-Run's arms in the snow under the heavenly rift, he'd told Mo-Run, "Don't hold grudges. Don't blame Shizun." Mo-Run was on the verge of shattering. "But you died. I saw it with my own eyes. I brought your body back to Xishang Peak. You can't be Shimei. How could this be possible?" "Because you're stupid," that refined voice answered at last, dripping disdain. "You imbeciles only ever cared about developing your spiritual cores, and never took the medicinal arts seriously. You, the sect leader, even our wise Shizun." Shimei laughed. "I misspoke. Shizun isn't an imbecile. But people like you have never shown proper regard for elixirs." "Elixirs," Mo-Run mumbled. "It's difficult indeed to bring a dead person back to life," Shimei explained. "But there are plenty of ways to make a living person appear dead." Had Mo-Run's mind been clear, he would have noticed the gaping hole in Shimei's story. Even if a substance existed that could simulate someone's death, Mo-Run had stood guard in Frost Sky Hall for a full 7 days in the past life, then watched as Shimei was lowered into the grave. He'd been laid to rest within 3 nested coffins, each sealed with longevity nails, then buried beneath a thick layer of dirt. How could any living person escape from such a grave by himself without attracting attention? Well, that's the awful part, isn't it? He couldn't have done this alone. There were only 2 possibilities. 1, Shimei was lying. Or 2, that someone in the past life had snuck into Xishang Peak's graveyard, opened Shimei's grave, and let him out after reversing the effects of that drug. So you mean to tell me that now that we know who the water bitch is, now we have a drug bitch to worry about? All right. Dislike her. Dislike her. Not wrong. Absolutely not wrong in hating the bitch at the end of Volume 7. Not incorrect. Deeply correct, actually. Where in the fuck am I on this page? But Mo-Run was a complete mess. An invisible hand seemed to have scrambled his vital organs. He hadn't the strength to consider these details. When he heard Shimei's words, that bloodless, lifeless face swam before his eyes once more. Ximing-Jing had perished in the flying snow. From that day forward, Mo-Run had felt nothing but hatred. Toward himself, for being weak and helpless, and toward Chu Wanning, for standing aside and doing nothing. From then on, he'd stepped into the abyss, falling into darkness. How was he to know that it was fake? It was all fake. Oh my God. We've been talking about how it was feeling more and more like Mo-Run had been manipulated into becoming Taishan Jin. In my mind, I thought that it was more like, it would be more, I don't know, like they were purposefully trying to create a monster. And so like that was like their end goal. That was their specific goal. As opposed to events in his life weren't what they seemed, but it was like different parties and different circumstances led to all of these things pushing him down a certain path, but it's not like it was masterminded to that end goal. Now, granted, it could still be that way, obviously. But from what it sounds like right now, it feels more like this is yet another thing that was incorrect, that directly influenced Mo-Run into becoming a tyrant. So in that sense, he was influenced. On behalf of someone who'd faked his death, Mo-Run had spent the second half of his life as a madman, sinking into mindless obsession. He'd wrought carnage across the land and brought about the death of the man who'd loved him more than anyone. Absurd. It was utterly absurd. Rage and anguish stabbed through him, his scalp prickling and his pupils contracting. How can you live with yourself? He roared savagely. Oh, I have no trouble with that, Shimei said with a smile. How can you live with yourself, Emperor Taishanjun? These words might as well have grabbed Mo-Run by the throat. No matter the reason you had for picking up the knife, whether out of resentment or unhappiness, your hands are covered in blood. Shimei tightened his hold on the unconscious Chu Wanning, as if flaunting his spoils of war. Do you really think the blood-soaked hands of the Emperor Taishanjun are fit to hold those of the immaculate Beidou immortal? The last bit of color drained from Mo-Run's face. Shimei knew his weakness exactly. Worthiness issues? Sure. Injecting venom into tender flesh like the sting of a scorpion. He narrowed his eyes dangerously, his gaze finely honed. Don't tell me you think you're worthy. Wouldn't you agree that you're too dirty? You're a thief. The wind stirred the branches, and the lambent moon emerged from behind the clouds. Shimei's smile never faltered, but every word drew blood like a sharp blade. Taishanjun, every day you ever spent with him was stolen. You know better than anyone what scum you are. Surely I don't need to elaborate. Mo-Run's lips were gray. Rage, sorrow, fear, regret, guilt, unbearable grief. No one could contain so many emotions without succumbing to insanity. And yet here Meat Bun comes, instilling all of it within us. Well, that's enough. Shimei heaved a long, suffering sigh. What's the point? Did you really think spending a few years as Mo-Zhongsha, saving a couple of lives, would be enough to write off all of your sins? Staring at Mo-Run's face, he laughed softly. Please. Mo-Run couldn't speak. Shizun has his memories from the past life now. He'll remember everything. All the monstrous things you did, the people you killed, the cities you slaughtered. He'll remember how you wronged him, how you destroyed the sect. He'll remember all the ways you broke his heart. Is that why Shimei's fucking done this? I bet it fucking is. Poison Chu Wanning against Mo-Run. Shimei paused, scrutinizing Mo-run's expression. Mo-zangsha, it's time to lower your head. He grinned. Might as well confess to your crimes now and be done with it. Lower your head. Confess to your crimes. A lifetime of madness, of untold savagery. None of it justified. Mo-run's throat bobbed. He fixed scarlet eyes on the man in the tree, but as soon as he caught sight of Chu Wanning, limp in his arms, an uncontrollable anguish welled up in him. His gaze shrank back and withered like a dry blade of grass. He jerked his head aside. Think about it. Once he wakes up and realizes how long you've been lying to him, how angry will he be? Chimay stroked Chu Wanning's face, running a delicate finger over the corner of his mouth. You know Shizun's temper. Do you imagine he'll forgive you? Chimay spoke with deliberate malice, and Mo-run felt like he'd fallen into an icy crevasse. Forgive him. Mo-run's wishes had never been extravagant, yet he'd always hoped this trial might never come. He'd never dared to think what this day might be like when it arrived. He squeezed his eyes shut, lashes quivering. Chimay's voice was cool and ethereal over the hazy peaks and valleys, like a deity commanding a mortal to seek repentance. Give up and go back to Xisheng Peak. When you get there, you'll find the surprise I've left for you. His words seemed to swirl around Mo-run and echo in his ears. Try to enjoy it. Don't put up too much of a fight. Then, as if something else had occurred to him, Chimay paused, fixing his peach blossom eyes on Mo-run standing below. Besides, Elrond, the two of us are not the same. You could never understand what I want. His tone was mild, no different than when he'd asked Mo-run if the wontons were good, if there was enough chili oil. Oh, fuck you. Fuck you, bitch. Oh. Oh, I hate this bitch. I'm not as ruthless as you are. I wouldn't hurt my friends so rashly, but... Chimay let his voice trail off. Mo-run's head jerked up. What are you going to do? Seeing Mo-run's gaze flit over to Chu Wanning again, Chimay laughed. Don't worry. I'll look after Shizun. I'd never hurt him. I know better than you how to cherish someone as pure and pristine as him. Every word was soaked in syrupy sweetness. Mo-run trembled from head to toe. If he'd had his spiritual energy, he would have long since torn Chimay limb from limb. But his spiritual energy was depleted, and Chimay knew he could do whatever he pleased. Chimay snickered. But as for my sectmates at Xisheng Peak, I'm too fucked up to talk. But as for my sectmates at Xisheng Peak, aunt and uncle, and the young master. Eyes gleaming, he said carefully. If you don't deal with my surprise properly, I fear you'll bring about their deaths a second time. Consider this. If Shizun wakes up and finds out you let everyone die, that you put yourself first again, do you think he'll ever spare you another glance? That's the end. I can't hit the desk. The camera's on it. That's the end of the chapter. We're a little after 4. So we're going to go ahead and take the break. I'm going to go lift my house, and I'll be back here in a minute to continue with what fucking chapter are we on? Who the fuck knows? Where were we? No, no, no. Hang on, hang on, hang on, hang on. I'm like way too far ahead. No, I'm still way too far ahead. Don't tell me that. We're on page 33 for chapter 246, which is called Bondage. I'll be right back. Love? Love bunnies. Report for duty, ma'am. I request your presence, love bunnies. Front and center. I have questions for you. Did you or did you not, when Shimei was getting blinded and blinding himself and all of that, did you or did you not say something to the effect of, my poor Shimei, everyone's been something about my poor Shimei, and, something, all that. Did you not, multiple of you, did you not, and then, did you not, ma'am, go into the Discord and at me and be like, where's the apology for Shimei? Where I still haven't heard an apology for Shimei. And I was like, oh, ma'am, excuse me. I'm still composing it. I'm still composing. Did you or did you not? The reason why I was confused as that reveal was happening, and I was like, oh, maybe it's just OG Shimei and all of that. I had a whole thing going on in my brain because I was like, no, but I remember Love Bunnies being like, oh my God, my Shimei, when the whole blinding thing was happening. You, ma'am, and accomplices have exactly nailed my personality and the type of fun lying that can come with fiction. How dare you? We are on page 30 something. I don't know. I haven't been thinking enough to grab the bookmark that's somewhere around here because it's a new volume, so it wasn't just in the book. We're on page 33 for chapter 246, called Bondage, in case you forgot. Shiming Jing. Oh my God, as I open shit accidentally. Close it. Okay. Shiming Jing. Morun seethed, eyes blazing. Shumei's sleeves fluttered gracefully in the moonlight. Perched in that tree, his handsome features were limned in silver. Time to go, before Shizun wakes up. If he sees us fighting, he won't be happy. After a moment, he added with a smile, "Oh, right. Next time we meet, Aran, remember to call me Hua Binan. Shigong would also do. If there is a next time, that is." Shigong comes with a footnote. Shigong specifically means husband of one's Shizun. With that, Shimei leapt nimbly into the air and vanished into the dense forest of Dragonblood Mountain. All that lingered was his lovely, chilling laughter, trailing behind him like a glittering web of gossamer. Shimei! Shiming Jing! He didn't turn to look back at Morun between the branches and the mist. Holding Chuaning in his arms, he flew swiftly through the craggy landscape, cloak whipping behind him and robes floating on the wind. His eyes shone as an indescribable satisfaction flooded his chest. He was like a hunter returning home, laden with his spoils, and awaiting his victorious feast. Here's the thing. The thing with people like Shimei, who are so utterly convinced of their own innocence and goodness and purity, is that clearly, as we've seen, he'll think that no matter what he does, pretty much, he will always think that. So I unfortunately see a possibility that he could do whatever he wants to Chu Wan-ning and still consider himself righteous. Yet as he leapt from the ground, he heard the man in his arms, besieged by the nightmares of another life, murmur hoarsely, "Mo-run." Shimei's smile stiffened. He lowered his lashes, his ardent gaze turning cool. "Why would you go to such great lengths for his sake? What's so great about him?" Chu Wan-ning couldn't hear. He was burning up with fever, his handsome face pale as ice, bluish veins visible beneath his skin. "Mo-run," he mumbled once more. Shimei jerked to a stop. After holding himself back for so long, his eagerness and impatience were almost overwhelming. What did I just say? Yet after a moment's struggle, he again managed to restrain himself. Before the unconscious Chu Wan-ning, he was not nearly as cavalier as he'd been in front of Mo-run. Staring down at Chu Wan-ning's face, he eventually said, "Stop reminiscing. Soon Mo-run will be gone forever. In the future, you can keep me company instead." After a pause, he continued, "I know your feelings for him run deep. It's all right if you can't forget him yet. Once my plans come to fruition and I can give you my full attention, you'll come around." Again, Shimei flew skyward. Summoning his sword mid-leap, he sped toward the hero's tomb on Mount Jiao. The hour was late. In the silent burial grounds of Rufeng's sect, the moonlight fell upon row after row of gravestones. Shu Shuanglin's Zhenlong chess pieces, no longer animated by spiritual energy, stood stiffly in place, never to move again. Shimei opened the doors on Mount Jiao with the Nangong blood he'd collected in a vial. Glancing about, he spotted Nangong Lu wool-gathering on a small hill. Nangong Lu wasn't a complete pawn. He still retained some of his original personality, but his faculties of reason were gone. At best, he had the mind of a 5-year-old child. Shimei had no plans to kill him. On the contrary, he thought the man might still prove useful. "Dear friend Gaga, you're back!" Nangong Lu broke into a sunny grin when he saw Shimei, his portly features seeming to glow with genuine delight. Since Shu Shuanglin had considered Xu Mingjing his dear friend, Nangong Lu had followed his lead, resulting in this childish moniker. Shimei hesitated slightly, narrowing his eyes. "Don't call me that." "Ah," Nangong Lu was taken aback. "You don't like it?" "I don't." "Call me Hua Binan," Shimei said, sullen. "Come, walk with me and help me open the doors." "Where does dear friend Gago wish to go?" Shimei eyed him. Perhaps there was no point in bickering with someone who was mentally little better than a toddler. "Take me to the hidden chamber where Shu Shuanglin used to live," he answered impatiently. Nangong Lu readily obliged. Shimei knew how to get to the hidden chamber, but there were many barriers along the way that required the blood of a Nangong to pass. It was a hassle getting the little vial of blood out each time with Chu Wan-ning in his arms. Much simpler to let Nangong Lu take the lead. After walking ahead of Shimei for some time, Nangong Lu suddenly turned around, apparently overcome by curiosity. "Dear friend Gaga, are you having a sleepover with your friend?" "A sleepover?" As if pleased by the word, Shimei's expression relaxed into a smile. "More or less, yes. But he'll spend many, many nights here in the future. You could say he'll be living here." Nangong Lu's curiosity was further piqued. "Who is he?" Shimei considered the question, then laughed. "You really want to know? I'm afraid it's not appropriate for a child's ears." Nangong Lu's eyes grew round, the naive expression on his middle-aged face at once comical and mildly revolting. They arrived at the bedchamber and opened the door. The room inside was simply furnished, lit with ever-bright lanterns. A bed stood against one wall, spread with a thick tiger's pelt beneath a snow-silk canopy. The only other items were a small table and a harp beside the bed. Chimay settled Chu Wanning upon the bed, then took a seat on the edge of the mattress, gazing intently at his Shizun's face. The bright glow of the lanterns fell over Chu Wanning's familiar features. When he was awake, those sword-straight brows drew sharply down from his temples, and those phoenix eyes were proud and steely. Yet now his features held a weariness, the curve of his jaw like a tendril of smoke from dying embers. But Chimay didn't mind. Far more important was that, after 2 lifetimes of toil, both Chu Wanning and Mo Run had fallen before his schemes. At that very moment, Chu Wanning was lying next to him, and Mo Run had lost his spiritual energy and was about to obediently walk into the trap Chimay had laid. His plans were all about to succeed. "Yeah?" Nangong Lu piped up, shattering Chimay's reverie. "He looks so familiar." Chimay shot him a sidelong glance. "Do you remember who he is?" "Remember?" "This Gaga once scolded you," Chimay prompted. "He embarrassed you." "Huh? Where?" "In the main hall of Rufeng sect." "Oh, really?" Nangong Lu exclaimed in surprise. "Why don't I remember it at all?" Chimay was silent for a moment, then smiled gently. "It's better that you don't." The implication went completely over Nangong Lu's head. He gazed at Chu Wanning for a while longer, head cocked, then pronounced, "He's so handsome, though, even when his eyes are closed and he's not smiling." "He's Emperor Taishanjun's favorite consort," Chimay replied cheerfully. "How could he be anything but handsome?" "Favorite consort? What does that mean?" Chimay's eyes danced with amusement. "You'll understand when you grow up. Go pick some tangerines for me, and heat up some water. Knowing his temper, he'll be furious if there's nothing good to eat when he wakes up." Nangong Lu went to the door, only to pause on the threshold. "What's wrong?" Chimay asked. "The tangerines." Nangong Lu hesitated, biting down on his finger. "Dear friend Gaga, do you know when His Majesty is coming back?" He was referring, of course, to Xu Shuanglin. Chimay had no plans to tell Nangong Lu that Xu Shuanglin was dead. "Just be good and listen to me for now," he said with a smile. "His Majesty will be back very soon." Nangong Lu's eyes lit up at once. Slinging a little bamboo basket over his shoulders, he left the chamber to pick tangerines. Chimay gazed at the closed door. After a moment, he laughed. "Interesting. When he had his wits about him, he despised his brother, but now he's filled with brotherly affection. Just goes to show it's only kids who are pure. Once they grow older and begin to scheme and vie for power, they all become filthy." "Then what exactly are you?" "Just checking. Are you... Because this is all looking a little bit like a scheme. I don't want to judge or anything, but it's kind of looking a little schemish, you might say." He turned toward Chu Wanning and caressed his cheek. "See? The cultivation realm is full of people like this. They're not worthy of your protection." His fingertip traced over that handsome visage, and he sighed. "Why did you suffer so much for these people? Why did you toil endlessly, fracture your souls, rip open space and time, endure untold humiliation? Why did you battle me for 2 lifetimes? All for their sake." Chu Wanning, still fast asleep, did not answer. He was tormented by the anguish and nightmares of the past life, his cheeks burning, brow tightly furrowed. Chimay watched him with his chin in his hand. After a time, he took out a silver bottle of Tapir fragrance dew from his Changkun pouch. "Drink some of this." Chimay uncapped the bottle. "I was certain you'd dream of the past lifetime. Back then at Xuanyuan Pavilion, I knew you would come, so I instructed the auctioneers to bring out the Tapir fragrance dew. I merely wanted to soothe your discomfort without raising suspicion. See, isn't it nicer to be with me than Moran? As long as you make me happy, I'll let you enjoy little trifles like this every day. What can he give you? He only knows how to knock people around. He poured the sweet-smelling dew into a porcelain bowl, then brought it to Chu Waning's lips and watched him swallow. Chimay gazed at his war prize for a while, entranced. An idea occurred to him, and his eyes brightened. He rummaged around in his Changkun pouch and pulled out a pitch-black silk ribbon. He tied it around Chu Waning's head and secured it with a binding spell so that his eyes were completely covered. He slowly rose. Grasping Chu Waning's jaw, he examined his face with an air of satisfaction. Beautiful indeed. No wonder Moran liked to look at you tied up like this in the past life. I don't mind following his example from time to time. I admit he's got taste when it comes to such things. Chimay's smile was as sweet as ever. His fingers trailed from Chu Waning's chin up to his lips, then the bridge of his nose, finally landing on that black ribbon over his eyes. Shizun, wake up soon, won't you? He said softly, his tone chillingly tender. I just thought of a fun game. Once you're awake, we can play it together, okay? That's the end of the chapter. Listen. Apologies if in all of my Chimay suspicion of the past God knew who knows how many streams, if I've touched on this before. But now, obviously, it's crystal fucking clear what Meat Bun has done. Because you have Moran, the protagonist, who, for good reason, believes himself to be filthy, utterly pitch black, irredeemable. And there's been the whole thing with his very black and white thinking. People are either his mother, beautiful, lovely, helpful, perfect, or dark, filthy, evil, etc., etc. And he is a victim of that old mode of thinking. He puts himself in the filthy category. So you have the protagonist who's convinced that he's black, filthy, irredeemable, all that. And now we have the villain, who, in classic protagonist and villain design, is the entire opposite in what he believes himself to be. He thinks he's pure. Pretty much. He thinks that he is worthy, where Moran is convinced that he's not. The irony being that the one who thinks he is holier than thou isn't, and the one who thinks he's some black-souled, irredeemable piece of shit isn't. That's what she's done. Hate her. Hate her. Hate her so much. More and more every day. We're on page 41 for chapter 247, which is called Beauty. Chu Wanning thought he was lying on a bed somewhere, his head heavy. At times his awareness would clear, only to soon grow hazy again. He had seemed to hear two people arguing. It sounded like Chimay and Moran. Then their voices faded and his ears were filled with the whistling of the wind. Later, he seemed to be lying under a warm blanket as someone spoke to him. Their fragmented voice sounded like it was coming to him across a vast ocean. He made out one word here and another there, something about a past life, and a Shizun. He thought this person too sounded like Chimay, but he had no energy to ponder it further. Their speech quickly dissolved into nothingness, like morning mist. Slowly, his memories filled out and sharpened. His recollections of the past lifetime swelled like rainwater flowing into a river, ultimately rushing into the sea. The first place he dreamed of was a long, shady veranda on Sishung Peak, behind the Red Lotus Pavilion. Flowering wisteria vines wound over the roof of the corridor, their fragrant petals falling like snow whenever the wind rose. He was sitting under the awning, writing letters at a stone table. They were letters he had no way of sending. Emperor Taishun didn't permit him to contact with anyone outside the palace, nor was he allowed to keep pigeons or any other animals. The Red Lotus Pavilion was enchanted with countless alarm sigils to ward off any possible escape. Yet Chu Wanning continued to write. It was a lonely existence. In this corner of the world, there was only him, and he'd probably live out the rest of his days the same way. To say it wasn't depressing would be a lie. He addressed his letter to Shui Meng. There wasn't much to write. He asked about recent happenings, whether Shui Meng was well, about circumstances on the outside, how his old friends were doing. Although, to be fair, Chu Wanning really didn't have any old friends left. He wrote slowly over the course of an afternoon, but the content of his letter amounted to nothing much. Toward the end, his mind began to wander. He found himself reminiscing about the peaceful days when he had 3 little disciples by his side. How he'd once taught them to hold a brush, to write poetry, and to paint. Shui Meng and Shimei were both quick studies, but Mo Run would still make mistakes after practicing a character 3 or 4 times. Chu Wanning had needed to guide his hand with his own to teach him properly. What did they write back then? As Chu Wanning sat lost in thought, his hand moved, and the ink flowed from his brush onto the fine writing paper. First he wrote, "The body is the tree of enlightenment, the heart is the bright mirror stand," which comes with a footnote. It's a verse first attributed to the Tang Dynasty Buddhist leader Yutuan Shinshu. Then, "The lives of mortals have no roots, floating about like dust on the road," comes with another footnote. It's from the first poem in a collection called 12 Miscellaneous Poems by Tao Yuanming, a poet from the 6 Dynasties period. One stroke after another, not a single line out of place. Regardless of what he wrote, his characters were crisp and carefully composed. He wanted to ensure those reading would be able to understand. He didn't want to set a bad example for his disciples. His handwriting resembled his person, straight-backed and proud. He wrote, "I know not where those dear to me remain," and "The seas are vast, the mountains distant." Another footnote. 2 verses from the poem Jade Butterfly by the Song Dynasty poet Lu Yong. The wisteria vines trembled in the wind, their petals landing on the paper. He didn't have the heart to brush them away. Gazing at those lovely scraps of pale purple, his brush moved again. As late spring sheds the color of Haitong, I remember the bygone warmth of gentle rain. The words rose and fell under his brush as the meter ebbed and flowed. If I were a star and you were a moon, we could shine together every night. Another footnote. Verse from the poem Chariot Journey by Southern Song Dynasty poet Fun Chengda. Rewinding a sentence or two. The only one without a footnote is, as late spring sheds the color of high tongue, I remember the bygone warmth of gentle rain. Didn't that one completely fucking romantic moment where he was looking at Mo Run, who looked back at him, like waving or waiting, wasn't that in the rain? Am I making that up? I don't want to be utterly devastated unless I'm supposed to be. As he wrote, his gaze unconsciously softened, as if he had returned to the serenity of yesteryear. No, I'm right. Thanks, blue turnips. As he wrote, his gaze unconsciously softened, as if he had returned to the serenity of yesteryear. The wind picked up again, rustling his papers. The pages he hadn't weighed down flew into the air and scattered across the ground dappled with afternoon sunlight. Chu Wanning set down his brush and sighed. He knelt to collect the papers containing his letter and verses of poetry. The pages had landed on the grass and steps, drifting over the fallen petals and withered twigs. He was about to reach for one among the scattered flowers when a strong, slender hand reached out and grabbed it first. What are you writing? Caught off guard, Chu Wanning straightened. Before him stood a tall, handsome man. Emperor Taishanjun, Mo Wei-yu, had at some point made his way into the pavilion. Nothing, said Chu Wanning after a pause. Mo Run was dressed in luxurious robes of black and gold and wore a 9-tasseled crown. On one of his pale, elegant fingers sat a dragon-scale ring. He had apparently just returned from court. Mo Run glanced coolly at Chu Wanning, then shook out the fine writing paper in his hand and scanned it. His eyes narrowed. I hope you may greet these words with a smile, for writing is akin to reuniting. After a beat of silence, he looked up. What does this mean? Nothing, really. Chu Wanning reached for the letter, but before he could take it, Mo Run blocked him. Oh, no you don't, Mo Run said. What are you getting all anxious for? He looked down and read a few more lines, then said dryly, Oh, you're writing to Shui Mong? I was only writing out of idleness. Chu Wanning didn't wish to implicate anyone else. I wasn't planning to send it. Mo Run snorted derisively. You couldn't even if you wanted to. There was nothing for Chu Wanning to say. He turned to tidy away the ink and paper on the table. To his surprise, Taishanjun followed him. With a snap of his black and gold sleeve, he slapped a hand over the page Chu Wanning was about to pick up. Chu Wanning looked up, his phoenix eyes fixing on Taishanjun's frowning face. He hesitated, then thought, Forget it. Let him have it if he wants. Chu Wanning reached for another piece of paper, only for Mo Run to pin that one in place, too. Mo Run continued confiscating all the pages Chu Wanning tried to take until Chu Wanning ran out of patience. Unable to guess what lay behind Mo Run's bizarre antics, he lifted his lashes and said through gritted teeth, What do you want? I hope you may greet these words with a smile, for writing is akin to reuniting. What does it mean? Mo Run stared at him, eyes dark, thin lips parted slightly in expectation. Explain. Beneath the scattered light and shadow, as the blossoms and leaves swayed gently on the vines, Chu Wanning couldn't help but recall Mo Run as he had been, years ago, when he'd just become his disciple. Mo Run had smiled and spoken so softly back then, asking him deferentially, Shizun, what does the body is the tree of enlightenment, the heart is the bright mirror's stand mean? Shizun, could you teach me? In comparison, the present Taishanjun's brusque manner sent a twinge of pain through Chu Wanning's chest. He let his head fall and closed his eyes without answering. Chu Wanning's silence served to further dampen Taishanjun's mood. He lifted page after page from the table, his eyes narrowing dangerously as he read on. This man, who had come up with a reigning title that sounded like Year of Cock, muttered to himself, exhausting all his wits as he peered at the words on the paper. At last, glum, he swept all the letters off the table onto the ground and looked up coldly. Chu Wanning, you miss him. I do not. Chu Wanning had no interest in bickering with Taishanjun and turned on his heel to leave. Before he could take a single step, he felt a hand yank his sleeve and another snap viciously around his chin. The world spun before his eyes. When it righted itself, his back was flat against the stone table. Mo Run's grip was so strong and unrelenting that bruises were already purpling across Chu Wanning's cheeks. Sunlight glimmered through the vines and into Chu Wanning's eyes, which reflected Taishanjun's distorted face. His features were handsome, bone pale, and sparking with heat. Emperor Taishanjun knew not the meaning of shame. He began to paw at Chu Wanning's robes right out in the open. For him to pin Chu Wanning against the table could mean any number of things, but this forceful disrobing narrowed the possibilities to one. Chu Wanning's humiliation made him furious. "Moe you," he yelled. The rage and despair in his voice did nothing to quell the fire in Mo Run's loins. On the contrary, they were like a ladleful of hot oil that sent the flames roaring higher. When Mo Run entered him, Chu Wanning only felt a searing pain. He refused to cling to Mo Run's back. He could only grip the edge of the table with spasming fingers, grasping roughly for breath. "You beast." Mo Run's eyes seemed shrouded in bloody mist. He was unfazed at being called a beast, only leering down at Chu Wanning. "Fine, don't explain those words," he said. "This venerable one shouldn't have asked you anyway. You're no longer this venerable one's Shizun these days, not by any measure." His movements were quick and harsh. He chased his own pleasure with single-minded focus, sparing no thought for Chu Wanning's comfort. "What does Wanning amount to these days?" he gritted out. "You're just a consort, another piece of my personal property. Spread your legs a little wider for this venerable one." After a time, Mo Run flipped him onto his stomach. Papers and ink tumbled from the table and brushes clattered to the ground. Pinned against the tabletop, Chu Wanning's body throbbed with agony, and his eyes were filled with boundless chaos. He looked at those verses before him. Out of an abundance of caution, to be very, very careful with what I put onto a stream, I'm not going to show you the art. The art isn't totally explicit or anything. There's it's not even nudity, but given the content, going to be very careful. And I don't know where, although this is a good question, but I am sure that all of the art in these is online somewhere if you would like to see it. But just to make sure that I still have a channel tomorrow, I'm going to be super careful and not show you that one. The body is the tree of enlightenment. The heart is the bright mirror's stand. I know not where those dear to me remain. The seas are vast, the mountains distant. The words were like a condemnation. He saw Mo Run as a youth, smiling at him, his dark lashes fluttering like butterfly pea blossoms stained black with ink. But all he heard were Taishanjun's low pants as he defiled him, rasping, "Chu Wanning, does this venerable one's consort Chu have someone else in his heart? What is this about if I were a star and you a moon we could shine together every night?" Mo Run's voice was filled with lethal menace. "Did you think I wouldn't understand this?" Chu Wanning gritted his teeth, splayed on the stone of the table. His flesh was bitten and pinched, red marks blooming across his skin, but his phoenix eyes were stubborn. "You don't understand." He knew voicing any contradiction would worsen his predicament, but he still stubbornly insisted, "You don't understand." "You don't understand." This is in his head. "You don't understand what it means to have people dear to you. You don't understand why the seas are vast, why the mountains are distant. You don't understand who's the star and who's the moon. You wouldn't be able to understand." Eventually, that absurd entanglement came to its end, and Mo Run released him. Chu Wanning's robes were in disarray. He lay sprawled amidst the wisteria petals, surrounded by ink and poetry. The ends of his eyes were stained red, like the lovely color of a rouge flower pinched from its stem. He had bitten his lips bloody. He sat up slowly and straightened his robes. He'd been a prisoner for such a long time. In the beginning, the pain of captivity had been nigh unbearable. Now, his heart was largely numb. With his core broken, what could he possibly do? All that remained of his so-called dignity was his insistence on dressing himself after the deed was done. He refused to let anyone help. Meanwhile, Moran sat beside the stone table, poring over those pages of his writing. When he read, "As late spring sheds the color of high tongue, I remember the bygone warmth of gentle rain," his hand paused for a moment on the words gentle rain. Wei, his courtesy name. He quickly flipped the page over. Voice mocking, he said, "You've rotted to the bone, yet your handwriting's still so neat." He tucked that sheaf of papers into his robes and stood. The breeze whispered over his hems, the gold-embroidered imperial motifs glimmering against the dark fabric. "I'm off." Chu Wanning said nothing. Mo Run looked at him askance. His black eyes, framed by the purple blooms on the vines, seemed even darker than usual. "You won't see this venerable one off?" Within the shifting shadows, Chu Wanning's voice was hoarse. "I taught you this before," he said slowly. Mo Run blinked. "What?" "I hope you may greet these words with a smile, for writing is akin to reuniting." Chu Wanning finally lifted his lashes to look at that man who stood at the apex of the world. "I taught you how to write it. You're the one who forgot." "You taught me how to write it?" Mo Run knitted his brows. He no longer seemed to be toying with Chu Wanning. He looked as if he genuinely had no recollection of such a thing. He had meant to leave, but Chu Wanning's words had stopped him in his tracks. "When?" Watching him, Chu Wanning said, "A very long time ago." With that, he turned and walked back to the Red Lotus Pavilion. Mo Run stood rooted to the spot, neither leaving nor following Chu Wanning inside. When Chu Wanning glanced out the window, he saw that Mo Run had walked back over to the table and was reading the pages left under the paperweights. Chu Wanning closed the window. After the torment he'd endured, coupled with him not knowing how to clean himself properly afterward, he soon caught a chill. His illness wasn't serious, and he didn't think Mo Run would have cause to find out. When Lu Gong came by, he mentioned Song Chutong had made a bowl of wontons earlier in the day, and somehow managed to send Te Shanjun into a towering rage. Not only did he refuse to stay in the Empress's quarters, he had stormed out without touching his dinner. Deep in the night, a heavy rain began to fall, and a servant came to the Red Lotus Pavilion. "His Majesty has requested that Chu Zongshe rest in the palace tonight." All these retainers were more than aware of the relationship between Mo Run and Chu Wanning, yet they still addressed him as Chu Zongshe on Mo Run's orders. If it wasn't out of some vestigial kindness, then it was out of cruelty. Chu Wanning felt dreadful. His complexion was wan, and his mood was low. "I won't," he said. "His Majesty has—" "I don't care what he has. I'm not going." The servant had little choice but to leave in silence. It was no fun going to bed with someone who was unwell. In the past, Mo Run had never forced himself on Chu Wanning when his health was especially poor, but before long the same servant returned. While Chu Wanning was beset by a fit of coughing, the servant bowed and said flatly, "His Majesty has requested that Chu Zongshe wait upon him tonight in Wushan Palace, in sickness or in health." That's the end of the chapter. That's where we're ending for today, as well, if memory serves. And we're just about right on time, because even though it was closer to 40 pages than 50, there were a lot of emotions that needed to be had in this stream. So on Thursday, we'll be on page 53 for chapter 248, which is called Forgetting. Where on earth is the bookmark? It's right here. So, welcome back to Erha, everyone. Fun times. I'm exhausted. Deeply, deeply exhausted. And that was the opening 40 pages of the volume. And also, don't be fooled, this looks like a shorter volume than usual. Listen. I don't know, man. I'm both deeply, deeply vindicated and will be for the rest of forever. But I'm also so angry at what she fucking pulled. And by she, I am referring to both Meat Bun and Love. Love bunnies. Yes, you and your accomplices. Meat Bun, she really, she made you suspect Shimei the entire fucking time. She drove me crazy suspecting Shimei the entire fucking time. Then gave a fake, not redemption, just a fake innocence, a fake clearing of his name, a fake exoneration. Gave him a fake exoneration, only to pretty much immediately after confirm what we've been going crazy over for months now. Months. Possibly the better part of a year. When did I start, Erha? It was early this year, right? Or have we already hit a year? I'm not sure. I'd have to check. It's been a second. And I've been suspecting Shimei ever since. That's what she did. To me. Specifically. We're over a year? I missed the 1 year mark? When was the year? When was the year mark? Why am I a bad YouTuber? Was it March of this year? I'll have to go and check what the date of the first Erha stream was. Oh, wow. We are. Oh, my God. Are we coming up on 2 years? Because we'll be finishing it around March of 2026. Jesus. Damn, we're going to have to, like, throw a party or something. Because that's, I mean, I knew that this was obviously the longest series that I'd ever be in the middle of reading, like breaks aside, right? I knew it was going to take the longest because it's like 3 volumes longer than Heaven Official's Blessing. But I think even Heaven Official's Blessing, I think I may have taken, there were less gaps in Heaven Official's Blessing because I feel like that took a year. So this taking 2 years is pretty fucking nuts. July 9th, 2024. Thank you. So we'll get, I think it'll take us through April, potentially. So we'll get kind of close to 2 years. That's fucking bonkers. That's crazy. Damn. Okay. I think I'm absorbing. I mean, not really, but let a girl dream. We will be talking about what we read today on Thursday at 2:15 for patrons and YouTube members. I forgot to shout this out earlier, but Liv, once again, being very generous and gifted a bunch of YouTube subscriptions, well, to my channel specifically, memberships, Gaywatch memberships, right at the top, which is very generous of her. Like, that's so sweet. Thank you so much. And so we'll be in the book chat on Thursday to talk about this at 2:15. But at 3 is when we continue to read Volume 8 of Erha. Maybe by Thursday, I'll have a brain cell. We can hope. There's a public Discord for the Gaywatch book-related things. The link for that is down in the description box. Should be an evergreen invitation. I'm exhausted, so what else? Oh, please, I'm a YouTuber. Hi, please like the stream. If you had maybe not a good time, but a time, give the stream a like. Tell your friends that some crazy chick is reading really, really long danmei for the first time out loud to people. And maybe they'll want to come join the party. I'll see you guys on Thursday. I love you all very much. I missed this. I missed you guys, definitely. I missed you guys so badly, even with all of the crazy shit going on during my vacation and everything. I missed these streams so much. Did I miss let's be real, I did. Did I miss having my guts put through a blender by Meat Bun twice a week? Yeah. I mean, I can't lie. I really can't lie. There's no point. No point in lying. I did. I missed it. I'm going to rage like I didn't, but I did. So yeah, like the stream. I'll see you guys on Thursday. I love you all very, very much, except for love bunnies. You know I love you. Love. That was purely a joke. I'll see you on Thursday. And I'll be yelling at you in the Discord until then. Please have you had a wonderful start of your week. Please have a wonderful mid of your week. And I will see you then. Alrighty? Please take care of yourself. See you Thursday.